look to evaluate and study the impact of programs on various outcomes, and we think about how programs might impact groups differently. We also look at how different groups perceive programs. If programs don't have the outcomes that stakeholders hope, then we can come alongside those programs and help them think about maybe where the breakdown might be. We can think about barriers to success. We can think about successes. So that's what we do in this center. I've been in this role for 2 years now. Last year was my interim year, and I began by figuring out what projects we had in the center. So I had to become a student of the projects. I had to learn what questions had been asked, what data had already been collected, what survey instruments were in place, what observation protocols were ready to be used. So I had that side of my position, but I also had to learn how to run a center in the university setting. So that meant that I had to learn payroll processes and a whole array of acronyms like IRB and EIAF, CITI, MOU, PADR. So a lot of what I did in the early days in this position was just, was very distant from the heart of the projects that we had in the center. And so the first project that I dove into with one of my colleagues, we went to evaluate a veterans center for excellence at a community college near a military base. And my colleague and I spent the day doing focus groups with veterans that went to this community college, and they shared their stories with us for the day. We listened to successes, we listened to frustrations, we saw laughter, and there were tears. And I left there feeling like I had been entrusted with something really important and really special. And it reoriented me to my role and my responsibility as an evaluator to incorporate the voices of both insiders and outsiders, to give voice to people who may be marginalized or excluded. In the center right now, we have about a dozen projects, and every project has a stakeholder that is potentially marginalized or excluded. We have one project is on culturally responsive instruction. It's a professional development project in schools, and we're working with students that are new to this country and are just learning English, and they have parents who are very important in this process, and we need to hear their voices. These are parents who are new to this country and may not speak English. Very important stakeholders. Another project we have is a survey that's going across the state on victimization. The survey went to homes, but there is a whole homeless population that didn't receive the survey. So we're now looking at items and trying to figure out ways to get the voices of the homeless as well incorporated into this study. So at the Evaluation Center, how do we take this responsibility to give voice to those who are marginalized and excluded? How do we work that out in our center? Well, the first thing we do is with each project, we take a utilization focus, which means that we engage stakeholders in ways to say from the start, the purpose of this evaluation is use. So how do you see it being used? We come alongside project directors and help them think about ways that evaluation can be used. With that focus, we then think with each project, who do we need to talk to? Who else do we need to talk to? What other voices are important? Who might we be missing? Once we've figured out what voices we need to hear, we go about accessing those voices. So we brainstorm as a team how to get those voices, how to hear those voices. If our first try doesn't work, we try again. If that doesn't work, we try again. We think about, do we need to go in a different place to get these voices? Do we need to go about it in a different time or a different setting? So we strategize. If we can't hear their voices, if we aren't hearing from them, then it's on us to try another strategy. Once we've heard the voices, we don't just put the data on the shelf and wait till the end of the year report. We pull the data and we sit down as a team and we think about, what are we learning from these voices? What are we hearing from these stakeholders? We analyze carefully the data. And then we think about who needs to hear about this information now. So what stakeholders could use this information in a formative way? So again, we think about who our audience is. And as we write key findings reports in our center, we have that audience right at the forefront to think about who are they? What do they need to hear? What's the helpful information for them right now moving forward? We write in a way that is concise, that is clear, that is visually appealing so that people who don't have a lot of time or may not have a research background can pick up a report and quickly find information that's useful. Now, once we have a report ready, we don't just hit submit, we don't just deliver it, but we think about it as an offering that we're thinking about. We've done our best to listen, we've thought carefully about the data, and now this is your project. This is our analysis, but this is your project. So we offer ourselves to facilitate conversations around what we are finding so that voices have a better opportunity to be heard. So it is through this constant thought about inclusion and impact that we think about our projects so that hopefully we can strengthen both research and practice.